Here.
Here. I second. Yes.
Yes. I move that the Board of Education adjourn to closed session to discuss matters relating to the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity, and collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees, and the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body, including meetings held for the purpose of discussing whether a particular parcel should be acquired, and the discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act, whether for purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes. Yes?
Yes. Okay, good evening. This is Tuesday, April 27th, 2021, regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting. The board has been in closed session since 6 o'clock for items listed on the board agenda. We have 6 board members present and 1 board member absent. Governor Pritzker continues a disaster declaration related to the COVID-19 pandemic for all Illinois counties. Currently, Phase 4 guidelines are in place, which limits the number of individuals in a space. In accordance with Board Policy 2.230, members of the public who wish to offer in-person public comment are able to do so at this meeting. To adhere to Phase 4 guidelines, there will be a limited number of seats available in the meeting room. The board president will call the public comment speaker to the podium based on the order in which the speaker signed in. A sign-up sheet will be available at the entrance to the building until 7 o'clock. In accordance with Board Policy 2.230, members of the public will be allocated up to 3 minutes per speaker. The board president has set 30 minutes as a length of time for public comment section of this meeting. Members of the public may stay in the meeting space if the limited number of seats remain available. The board meeting continues to be live streamed for viewing on the district's website. Written public comments can also be provided where the board will acknowledge the written comment, but they will not be read. See agenda item 1B for the links. All right, so we have been in closed session, and so at this time, I will ask that we all stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so first item on the agenda is public comments. As with all public comments, please note that it is the board's practice to listen to public comments with interest in what is being shared and not to provide a response or to engage in discussions. In order for the board to maintain civility and decorum of the meeting, we ask you be courteous and respectful to members of the board, district leadership team, district staff, and the process for providing your public comment. Please state your name when you come to the podium and limit your comments to 3 minutes. There'll be a timekeeper and they'll let you know when it's you have 30 seconds left to finish up. So at this time, I have 2 speakers listed. So the first one is Marcia Baker. So you can come up to the podium and then just hit the button and make sure the microphone is on.
Thank you.
As long as it's green, it's okay. Is it green?
Yes.
Okay, there
yes,
we go.
it's green. Thank you.
We can hear you.
I
Yep.
just-
You're all good.
okay, that's good. It was very difficult to hear you back there in the peanut
Oh.
gallery.
Wonderful.
So, public comment. My name is Marcia Baker. I'm an executive board member of the League of Women Voters of Elmhurst. The League of Women Voters would like to thank Dr. Margaret Harrell for her time spent on the District 205 board. Your dedication to the District 205 students, staff, and community is a model of all current and future board members. Thank you, Dr. Harrell. With a new board and new superintendent, the League thinks it's timely to remind everyone of the importance of the relationship you have with the community. The standards you've set, as stated in your policy manual, are to be transparent, to promote effective two-way communications with the community, and to adhere to a policy of openness. You've put these standards into practice by recording board and committee meetings. These recordings, begun during the pandemic, should continue. They enable the community to see how you work supervising our children's education is done, how your work, But the community's view is hampered because the camera recording meetings is at the back of the room, making it hard to see who is speaking. Many times it does not cover the screen where the PowerPoint or the presentations are shown. Also, if board members do not use their microphones or are participating remotely, it can be difficult to hear what is said. And I just experienced that. We know you take pride in your work for us. Please let us see it all and hear it well. Our observer from the league was on the email list of media and other regulars who are sent agendas and reminders of upcoming meetings. Recently, she was dropped from the list. When we asked about this, Kathy Schmidt said that our observer would be put back. Well, we appreciate this. It's the second time that the observer was removed. Please keep our observer on the email list. Thank you. Lastly, we think it would be a good idea to follow the lead of the Elmhurst City Council and post as much backup material as possible on the public side of board docs. We request that you seriously consider these matters because in doing so, you will promote the best education for our children and do so in an open and transparent way that effectively communicates with the citizens of Elmhurst. Thank you for your time. Would you like a copy of this, or do I just?
Actually, I would.
I'll
You can
just
bring
leave
it
it
up
up
here.
here for you.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, second speaker is Ed O'Connor.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Edward O'Connor. I'm speaking today as a parent of 7 children. 3 graduated from Sandburg and York, 2 are currently graduates of Sandburg attending York, and 2 are currently at Sandburg. My wife tonight, Deb, could not make it tonight because she is at a York event. Here's the comments that we put together. This is a very dangerous time. People are being hospitalized and dying. The decisions we are making as a society and you make as a board are having a lifelong impact on others. I'm not talking about people who get COVID. I'm talking about the kids you were elected to serve. The mental health impact of COVID guidelines are hurting our children. Children are being hospitalized for mental health issues. Suicide rates are up. I understand there are legal implications to dealing with the state guidelines. There are also health implications to our children. Severe health implications. When are we going to place the health and wellness of our children first? Yesterday, my wife told my son that in other states, children are allowed to go to school without threat of being quarantined just for sitting next to someone in class. He asked her, "Are you allowed to be near each other?" His eyes were wide and hopeful. When she said yes, he almost cried. Children with anxiety are constantly afraid that they are going to get quarantined. It creates an unnecessary added worry. Children with depression who are being quarantined are in grave danger. They are experiencing extreme pain and suffering. It is not reasonable to continue to put our kids in this position given current lower COVID transmission and hospitalization rates and free and available vaccination opportunities. Many parents are writing to the state and local representatives to demand change to the quarantine guidelines. From speaking with a board member, we know that at least 2 of you have done the same. Are all of you? Are all of our board members? All of our administration? Our superintendent? Our board president? Are you asking for the quarantines, the severity of our state guidelines to change now to protect our children? If you are not, please do. As parents, we are limited. We have limited ability to make an impact. As board members and administrators for a school district and as government entities, you have more impact, more power, the power we entrust with you. Demand that they put our children's health first. Get rid of the unnecessary quarantines. Please help us to protect our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, those are the only 2 for in-person. Mrs. Troutman, are there written comments?
There are 5 written comments.
Okay, so those written comments will be posted on the website then. Okay, so next item on the agenda is approval of board minutes. Item A, approval of regular board minutes, March 10th, 2021, March 15th, 2021, March 16th, 2021, March 18th, 2021, March 20th, 2021, March 23rd, 2021, March 24th, 2021, and March 25th, 2021. Were there any changes to those minutes? Okay, then those stand as presented. Item B, approval of closed session minutes, March 15th, 2021, March 16th, 2021, March 18, 2021, March 20, 2021, March 23rd, 2021, March 24, to a bittersweet part of the agenda. Dr. Margaret Harrell, this is her last time on the board. And so I'm going to say a few words, and if anybody else wants to say anything in recognition of her service. Dr. Harrell, you have faithfully served on the Elmhurst Community Unit School District 205 Board of Education for 8 years. 8 long years. You have been a teammate, a positive force for good, and a great example of quiet strength. You are thoughtful and wise in your contributions. You listen and seek first to understand. You study not just the board packet that we get the week before the board meeting. You study beyond to learn and understand. You ask tough questions, both for accountability and to understand and to educate. You possess a willingness to consider all points of view before making a decision. You value the uniqueness that each individual brings to the table. You are steadfast and loyal to the decisions made by the board, even when at times they are uncomfortable. You have championed equity for our students, and you serve week after week with integrity. Most importantly, you always ensure that our students are considered in decision-making, but not just the students. You always ask how the staff will be impacted and the greater community as well, always thinking of others. On a personal note, I have enjoyed working with you so much. I have learned and grown and been challenged through our collaborative work together as we planned, adjusted course, and worked to best serve our community both in good times and hard times. Your contributions will be felt for years to come by the thousands of students, hundreds of staff members, and the community you served who have been touched by your faithful service. It has both personally as a board member, but also on behalf of the board, it has been an honor to serve with you. So thank you. We are going to miss you so much. So I don't know, if anybody else wants to say a couple things, and then we have a couple things for you to recognize. Good? Jim, yeah? Mr. Collins?
Margaret, we've been here together for the last 8 years. And sadly, sometimes good things come to an end. I'm going to miss you. The board's going to miss you. Over the last 8 years, when our discussions got heated, you calmed things down. When we were divided, you proposed a compromise. You always found middle ground. And you've always put the interest of our students first. My guess, and we've been wise enough never to have this discussion, is that our national political views are probably pretty far apart. But over the last 8 years, when it comes to kids, we've been on the same side of the issue, on average, 99 times out of 100. Margaret, I'm honored to be your friend, and I hope our friendship never ends. I'm going to miss you a lot. But just in case I miss you too much, over the last 2 election cycles, I've managed to snatch about 200 of your signs out of people's yards. So if in a couple of years they start sprouting up in the front lawns all over town, you know you're coming back.
I have to say something to go up. I had to, I wanted to be sure just to say thank you. I wanted to say thank you, and obviously goodbye. But I want to start off, and I want to say thank you to our community, to all those who have supported the Board of Education, those who have listened to our meetings, offered opinions and guidance. I want to say thank you to all of the community who realize the challenges that the Board of Education face and continue to work and be engaged in our group. To the students, you are the joy and the jewel of our community. You are the reason we do what we do. I will miss being a part of your celebrations and successes. Thank you for being such a motivating source and such an inspiring group of diverse and gifted young people. To our teachers, our aides, our secretaries, our custodians, and all staff, it's not possible without you. Thank you for your dedication, your personal sacrifices and commitment. Thank you for educating, coaching, and mentoring all of our students, regardless of the circumstances. To the principals and administration, thank you for your watchful and caring oversight. You are often caught in the middle between representing and fighting for your school's community needs while carrying the message of the district unity back to disparate communities. Please know we hear you and appreciate you. To the cabinet, a special thank you for listening to all our constituents and creating procedures despite divergent opinions and guidance. I recognize that this year has been more difficult than most, and the Board of Education recognizes and appreciates your efforts and hard work. Please accept these thank you cards as my personal recognition in fond regard toward each of you. To the Board of Education, let's take this down so I can see you guys. Wow, what a year. School closures, school reopening, searching for a superintendent, losing our current superintendent, hiring both an interim and permanent superintendent, while doing all the basic functions of the school board. Thank you. Thank you to my peers. We have been through the fire together, and while living through it, you can either separate and self-destruct or meld and become stronger together. I am proud that the Elmhurst District 205 Board of Education has melded and remained an intact, fully functional team. Thank you. I want to say thank you to all of the candidates who had the courage to run for the volunteer role of the Board of Education, and a special welcome and congratulations to Athena Arvantis, the newest member of the Board of Education. I also want to say thank you to our interim superintendent, Dr. Linda Yonke, and our incoming superintendent, Dr. Keisha Campbell. You're all a crucial and important component to the success of the Board of Education. I trust that this team will form even stronger bonds and continue to speak out and share their viewpoints while listening to each other's perspectives and viewpoints. I believe that the Board of Education will continue to keep an open mind and model continuous learning, as described in the book Think Again by Adam Grant. Please accept these books as tokens of my appreciation toward each of you. And finally, I want to say a special thanks to my family and friends. A thank you to my husband and 2 daughters. Thank you for your personal sacrifices. You have and continue to support me and inspire me. My husband is an educator in another district, and we have had many interesting discussions and debates regarding the current and future state of education in our community, our state, and our nation. I thank him and I thank my daughter for their patience with me. I also want to thank my friends who have expressed words of support throughout my tenure. I am sure there are many others that I need to thank and offer my appreciation, but I will stop. I will say good night, good luck, and continue the good work. Thank you. It's a vase with an inscription for the Elmhurst Community Unit School District. It's got my name, my time there, and was presented the date it was presented. It said, in recognition and appreciation of 8 years of faithful service to the children, staff, and community of Elmhurst School District. Thank you very much.
Those holes in the floor are deadly.
Thank you.
Oh, and your purse, don't forget your purse. You won't go very far. Just while I'm checking, can you hear me back there? Yes? Yes? Okay. Just wanted to check. Okay. All right, so we are on to section 8 of the agenda, seating of re-elected and newly elected Board of Education members. So the first item is the acknowledgement that we have received the certified election results. They are in board docs for the public to view. So we have the official election results. So those are there. And we have two of us, the incumbents, Mr. Collins and I, will be taking the oath, as well as our new member, Athena Arvanitis. So if you want to come up, and we, because Mrs. Stufen is ill this evening, we appointed Mrs. Troutman to be the Secretary Pro Tem, so she will administer the oath and follow on with the election. Yeah. Can't we just stand like this? Oh, you guys are tough crowd.
It'll be easier to see on the camera too, for the viewing. Okay. I will now administer the oath of office to the re-elected and newly elected members of the Board of Education. Do you, Kara Caforio, Jim Collins, and Athena Arvidas, solemnly swear that you will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education of Elmhurst Community Unit School District 205 in accordance with the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and the laws of the State of Illinois to the best of your ability? I swear. Do you further swear that you will respect taxpayer interests by serving as a faithful protector of the school district's assets, that you will encourage and respect the free expression of opinion by your fellow board members and others who seek a hearing before the board while respecting the privacy of students and employees, that you will recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual and that decisions can only be made by a majority vote at a public board meeting, that you will abide by majority decisions of the board while retaining the right to seek changes in such decisions through ethical and constructive channels, that as a part of the Board of Education, you shall accept the responsibility of your role in the equitable and quality education of every student in the school district, that you shall foster with the board extensive participation of the community, formulate goals, define outcomes, and set the course for Elmhurst 205, that you will assist in establishing a structured environment designed to ensure all students have the opportunity to attain their maximum potential through a sound organizational framework, that you will strive to ensure continuous assessment of student achievement and all conditions affecting the educations of our children in compliance with state law, that you will serve as an education's key advocate on behalf of students in our community schools to advance the vision for Elmhurst 205, and that you will strive to work together with the district superintendent to lead the school district towards fulfilling the vision the board has created, fostering excellence for every student in the areas of academic skills, knowledge, citizenship, and personal development. You are officially sworn in.
So now, if the Secretary Pro Tem would like to do actually, I can have Jenna do a roll call. Sorry. Jenna do a roll call of the new board.
Mr. Kaczynski,
Present.
Mrs. Troutman,
Present.
Mrs. Hostler,
Present.
Mr. Collins,
Still here.
Mrs. Arvanites,
Present.
Mrs. Caforio.
Present. 6 board members present, 1 absent. Mrs. Stufen is ill this evening. Okay, so we are the new board, now the current Board of Education. So welcome, Athena. And now we move to the next part of the agenda, which is the reorganization of the Board of Education. So the first item is the President Pro Tem administers the election of President.
Nominations are now in order for the office of President.
I nominate Kara.
Hearing no further nominations, the nominations for the office of President are now closed. Nominations are now in order for the office of Vice President.
I nominate Chris Kaczynski.
Hearing no further nominations, the nominations for the office of Vice President are closed. Nominations are now in order for the office of Secretary.
I nominate Courtney Troutman.
Hearing no further nominations, the nominations for the office of Secretary are closed.
That's okay. That's okay. I think, yeah. It's okay. So we have all the nominations, right? So now, then I will do, you need to do the president one, right?
Sure.
Needs to do the,
Yep.
I think, right?
Kara Caforio, being the only candidate nominated for the office of President, the chair hereby declares you elected by acclamation and directs the secretary to record in the minutes.
Right, thank you. All right, so then the nomination for vice president, oh, sorry. Sorry, is that better? Okay, I need to keep it right up. Yep, okay, I got it. Just wave to me if you can't hear me. Okay, so Mr. Kaczynski was nominated for vice president. So there were no other nominations. So he is the vice president. So why am I wrong? Where is the? Is that right? I declare. Okay, sorry. I declare that he is elected vice president by proclamation. All right, so then we move on to secretary. Mrs. Troutman was the only nomination for secretary. So she, sorry, I cannot find where we are. Sorry. So yeah, oh, there we go. Okay, so Mrs. Troutman being the only candidate nominated for the office of secretary, I hereby declare her elected by acclamation and directed the secretary to record in the minutes. So I'm going to go back and officially put you in. Okay, so clearly I need to read a little better. So hearing there were no further nominations for the vice president, Chris Kaczynski being the only candidate nominated for the office of vice president, I hereby declare him elected by acclamation and direct the secretary to record in the minutes. Okay. All right. So, Mr. Kaczynski, do you want to come sit over here? Okay. And then, so we have our new slate of officers. So Mr. Kaczynski and Mrs. Troutman. And we have a new member. And Mr. Kaczynski is going to share a few words to kind of mark the moment. And I wanted to just take a moment to personally speak. A lot of times I have to speak on behalf of the board, and which tends to make me quieter sometimes because speaking. So I just first wanted to say thank you to our community in a really rough year. It is more than an honor, and I am more than grateful to be able to serve this community again in this capacity for another 4 years on the board. It has truly been one of the great privileges of my life. Athena, welcome to the Board of Education. Your life's work has been about students and learning, but you will soon add to that experience with both the uniqueness and the challenges of serving in this capacity. And it's so great to have you join the team, and I'm so looking forward to the perspectives that you'll add to the work. And then to my colleagues, we have had a rough year. And I just want to say thank you for entrusting me with this role. Only the 7 of us, with Margaret, who served together this past year, will truly ever understand what the past 13 months have been like for us. In addition to the pandemic, we've had additional challenges that we have had to navigate and stay together. And as Margaret alluded to, we have stayed together. And it has been challenging. And I'm very grateful for that. Each of us leads from our seat with an equal voice and an equal vote. It is our collective willingness to listen and collaborate that truly makes this a strong and effective board. And as the trauma of the past year subsides and we get to take a moment and reflect on all that took place, I think it will be what we do with what we learn, both the good and the bad, that will be the difference. So I want you to know, I hope you know this from my actions, but I want you to know that I'm committed, as always, to doing the difficult work of the board and helping us reestablish our working relationships as a team and working with you to address the many priorities and challenges we have in front of us, and especially as we work with Dr. Yankee, but also welcome Dr. Campbell on board as part of the team. So I just wanted to say thank you, and looking forward to working with you again, continuing 4 years. I'm very honored. And I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
Great, thank you. On behalf of the Board of Education, the last 12 months have brought unprecedented challenges in all aspects of life, including to our education system. Through these times, we have adjusted and learned, responded to ever-changing information. We have had setbacks, and we have experienced some successes. Most recently, the momentum has begun to turn. We are proud to have returned our students to full-time in-person classes across all age groups, beginning the process of restoring normalcy for our children. We extend our thanks and appreciation to all parts of our school community for their roles in this important step forward. We have also stabilized district leadership. We are grateful for Dr. Yankee's contributions in recent weeks, and we look forward to welcoming Dr. Campbell to her new role in the months ahead. Through these varied experiences over the past year, it is apparent that building trust within our school community is paramount. We intend to focus on several key areas: improving communication and transparency with all of our constituents, improved operating execution, and finding more avenues to say yes to common sense ways to restore normalcy for our children. As a board, we know there is hard work ahead. We also know that we share many common goals, almost all of which are centered around our students. And we are fully committed to working together as a team to drive success in these important areas. We believe that all members of our school community can rally around the common goals of advocating for our children, seeking continuous improvement of their school experience, and doing everything in our common power to build positive momentum towards normalcy and recovery from these recent times. Most importantly, as we move forward together, we will keep our students at the center of everything that we do. Thank you.
All right. Yes, we are at 9D, establishment of regular meeting dates, times, and locations. So obviously the location is always here in district office. Did you want to speak to any of the dates?
No, we looked to make sure that we avoided.
I think your mic, Linda.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Yes, we looked to make sure that there were no conflicts with holidays, and I would, I would point out that there are already 5 months that only have one meeting, and it's something interesting that Keisha and I have talked about, the possibility of doing one meeting that combined the functions of the two that you have the other 7 months. But I'm not here long enough to really feel like that is something that I should propose, but I just thought I'd draft that idea tonight, and Keisha and I actually talked about that last week. But especially because you have very active committee meetings that function very well to do some of that business and prepare for the meeting in advance. For instance, the Finance and Operations Committee met last week, and many of the items tonight are things that were discussed at that meeting, and 5 of 7 board members were there, and that could continue. So that's just an idea to think about, whether it would be this year or sometime in the future. But we just followed the same pattern as last year, with one meeting in June and July, December, November, and March, and the other months with 2 meetings.
Yeah.
Oh.
I move that the Board of Education approve the 2021-2022 regular board meeting dates, time, and location as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, then we can call the vote, please.
Mrs. Troutman?
Yes?
Mrs. Hassler?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mrs. Arvanites?
Yes.
Mrs. Caforio?
Yes, 6 ayes, no nays, 1 absent. The motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the superintendent's consent agenda, and as a review, these tend to be either routine items or items we have previously discussed. In this case, almost every item was discussed at the Finance and Operations Committee meeting, which was earlier or last week. So would anyone like to pull an agenda item from the consent agenda? Okay. Then could I have a motion for the superintendent's consent agenda, please?
I move that the Board of Education approve consent agenda items: A, personnel report; B, financial report; C, bus transportation, Cottage Hill contract, special education; D, bus transportation for student contract; E, facility use fees; F, student fees K through 8 and 9 through 12; G, benefits administration system software; H, York photography contract; I, second read new policy 7-345, use of educational technology, student data privacy and security; and J, bid number 2109, York gym roof replacement.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion by Mrs. Troutman, second by Mrs. Hassler. Assuming there's no discussion, then you can call the vote.
Mrs. Troutman?
Yes?
Mrs. Hassler?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mrs. Arvanites?
Yes.
Did she call my name? I know. I mean, I'm a little out of it today, but yes, that would be 6 ayes, no nays, 1 absent. Motion passes. Well, I thought maybe I said it and I answered and I didn't. The rough day. All right, superintendent's agenda action items. Item A, the resolution providing for the issue of not to exceed $58.5 million general obligation school bond series 2021 of the district for the purpose of paying certain costs of those capital projects approved by referendum at the November 6, 2018 general election for the purpose of refunding certain outstanding bonds of the district, providing for the levy of a direct annual tax sufficient to pay the principal and interest on said bonds, and authorizing the execution of a bond purchase agreement with Raymond James and Associates in connection with the proposed sale of said bonds. Do you want to give any background, or do you want to?
This was discussed at the Finance Committee meeting last week, also with a presentation by Elizabeth Hennessy. Again, 4 board members were present, asked questions, discussed this item and the next one at length. And Chris Walden is here tonight. If anyone would like to ask him any questions, I think Elizabeth is on standby also.
We do have Elizabeth on the line too as well.
Okay.
Oh, there she is.
Hi, guys. I don't know if you can see me very well. I can't see myself very well in this thing. So anyway, good evening. And going back to the meeting on April 13th, the Board of Education asked us to take a look at how many bonds we could issue now, moving bonds up from the 2023 issue in order to take more interest rate risk off the table, given that interest rates are at or near all-time lows. And the answer to that question was 45 million. So we did discuss this in depth at Finance Committee. The resolution in front of you tonight authorizes an amount of the referendum bonds not to exceed 46,500,000, and then the for refunding there is up to 8 million authorized for refunding of the Series 2012 bonds, which are currently refundable, and there's 4 million authorized for refunding a portion of the 2015 bonds. And those refundings are generating present value savings of about $500,000, as well as achieving the structure that we have been promising to the taxpayers all along. So that's a summary of the resolution, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Comments, Chris?
Just a quick comment that I think it is prudent to upsize the bond offering and issue, what we're able to do in the current interest rate environment. So thank you for doing the work on that and coming back to us. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Jim?
Elizabeth, just for the record, how much money does that leave us yet to fund from the referendum?
Just a little over 24 million to bring you up to the full authorized 168,500,000.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? We did discuss, this was discussed again at the Finance Committee meeting too. All right, if I could have a motion then?
I move that the Board of Education approve the resolution providing for the issue of not to exceed $58.5 million general obligation school bonds, Series 2021, of the district for the purpose of paying certain costs of those capital projects approved by referendum at the November 6, 2018 general election, for the purpose of refunding the certain outstanding bonds of the district, providing for the levy of a direct annual tax sufficient to pay the principal and interest on said bonds, and authorizing the execution of a bond purchase agreement with Raymond James and Associates Incorporated in connection with the proposed sale of said bonds.
I second.
Any other discussion? All right, then you can call the vote, Jenna.
Mrs. Hassler?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mrs. Troutman?
Yes.
Mrs. Arvanites?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaforia?
Yes, 6 ayes, no nays, 1 absent, motion passes. All right, second is item B, resolution authorizing and directing the execution of an escrow agreement in connection with the issue of not to exceed $58,500,000 general obligation school bond series 2021 of the district.
Again, Elizabeth is available if there are any questions on this item. Again, this is connected. Chris, I don't know if you want to make any comments about this.
The escrow resolution is just a necessary component in order to do the refunding portion of the bonds.
All right, can I have a motion then, please?
I move that the Board of Education approve the resolution authorizing and directing the execution of an escrow agreement in connection with the issue of not to exceed $58,500,000 general obligation school bonds, Series 2021 of the district.
I second the motion. All right, motion by Chris, second by Athena. Nice job. Any other discussion? All right, you can call the vote.
Mr. Kaczynski,
Yes.
Mrs. Arvanites,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mrs. Hostler,
Yes.
Mrs. Troutman,
Yes.
Mrs. Caforio.
Yes, 6 ayes, no nays, 1 absent, motion passes. All right, item C is adoption of resolution of appointment to the DuPage Area Occupational Education System Board of Directors. Do you or Dr. Grenz want to just give a...
Yeah, this is an annual action on the part of the board to have a representative at the DuPage Area Occupational Education System on the board. Dr. Grenz, if you'd like to say anything.
So Technology Center DuPage currently has 21 students enrolled from York High School. We are projected to have 15 next year. We meet on a monthly basis and support and service similar to your function, the work at Technology Center DuPage.
All right, could I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education adopt the resolution of appointment to DuPage Area Occupational Education System Board of Directors, which appoints Dr. Scott Grenz, Assistant Superintendent for Innovation and Systems Management, to serve as its representative for the 2021-22 school year.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All right, you can call the vote.
Mrs. Hostler, Mrs. Mrs. Troutman,
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mrs. Arvanites,
Yes.
Mrs. Caforio.
Yes, 6 ayes, no nays, 1 absent, motion passes. All right, next is the superintendent's communication. Item A, summer school update.
So this is an update on, you received a memo several months ago about the plans for summer school, and so our summer school is the same in many respects and typical and normal summer school at York High School, for instance, but the elementary program, both the high school and elementary are different to some extent, but the elementary program is more dramatically different. We normally use Title I funds and have about 100 students in a summer school program for acceleration in reading and math. This summer we're opening a similar program to 660 students across grades K through 5. Actually, in addition, possibly a section of 20 preschool, early childhood students as well. And so these students, Nikki Tamaru and her department worked with principals to identify students and Marianne as well to determine what students would benefit the most from this acceleration program this summer. And so just last week, and I think continuing into this week, invitations went out to families to participate in this program. Many are responding very quickly. There's a good response rate already. But if they respond negatively or don't respond, we'll reach out to them if they don't respond. And then we will go to other students. We will continue to open up, trying to fill up all of these sections with about 20 students each. So there will also be some online resources that are being put together by Mrs. Tamaru and her department for anyone that would be available online, and also are coordinating with the Park District to offer early childhood through 8th grade summer enrichment opportunities. And there are some that have been offered in other years. There are some new offerings as well, including a Spanish class and additional STEM classes for students who couldn't get into that, couldn't work that into their regular schedule. The middle school and high school, so that actually the first group kind of is K or pre-K through 8, but there are also some middle school students in these other programs. The Fine Arts Summer Program has been offered before, but it's expanded somewhat this summer to include dance and visual art courses in addition to instrumental and vocal music. Project Lead the Way for 6th to 8th grade students who were unable to get into that course during their elective schedule. And then the York High School Summer Program, which is very extensive and will continue, more than, including over 30 courses for students to continue their learning in the summer months. So this was just an update, again, a follow-up of what programs were developed, what the enrollment is like, how people are responding to that. So Dr. Grenz and Ms. Tamaru are here if you have any questions. But it's, again, we're continuing to get the signups. We can report again in another, at the next meeting, we should have more solid numbers on the response. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Sorry, could you just repeat? Did you mention what the enrollment looked like so far? I missed that. Sorry.
It really has literally just been a few days. And Ms. Tamaru, I don't know if you know how many. And
We've had about 180 responses, and 95% of them have responded that they will be attending. So only 5% have said no so far.
But it's only about
It's only been a few days.
A little less than a third have responded, but literally it was last week, so it's only been a few days since the invitations went out.
Okay. Just a quick question for the programs that are available to anyone who's interested. Can you just tell families where the best place to find those opportunities is on our website and sign up for those things?
Sure. So through the Park District, you can go on the Park District website, and they have their normal catalog. They just have some extended opportunities this year, like Linda referred to with the Spanish and the STEM. And then we are currently putting together on our district website, it's not available yet, we're purchasing a couple more online resources for our families, and we will have it delineated by grade level on our website, where parents who aren't invited into this program will have opportunities over the summer to learn. That will be posted in the next few weeks.
So is it possible to get a link to that Park District program on our website? It seems like that would make it easier.
Sure, I can work with Bev on that.
Okay, okay.
There are also some, like the fine arts programs that would be registered through the web store, is that correct? So at each individual school?
So if any interested parent or student can register for the Fine Arts Program, PLTW, and York's High School Summer School through RevTrack, which is our district web store. And the links are all listed by the course names themselves. So it'll be listed as Summer Music Program, Project Lead the Way, and then the York High School programming will be called Summer High School Academic Courses. And then it'll drop down and show all the individual courses that are available. I'm really excited to have that.
Summer school enrollment is fairly typical right now, or lower than usual, higher than usual?
I'd say fairly typical. The fine arts program is at a higher enrollment than before. We already have 257 students registered, which is great.
Yeah.
We're really excited. The word normal appears on the document that we submitted, which was a really exciting thing to be able to type.
Okay. That's nice.
Thank you.
If a communication like this already went out and I missed it, that's, but is there a way that is there a way to kind of put out a communication that just summarizes all this so people know, what's been offered or what is available, and they can kind of navigate that even if, no matter what level? And
I'll look at that. I would think it would be helpful to have a summer school spot.
yeah, or somewhere on the website.
Yeah, I don't know, we can talk about.
Because I know a lot of people have questions about that.
Okay. And the elementary program that with the 600 students is not an open enrollment. It's been targeted to specific students. So, but there are, some of these other programs obviously are open. Okay.
That'd be great, yeah.
So I wanted to ask something related but not summer, but it would be something that if we could have for future meetings. I would like to know, how are we really getting the targeted data on where our kids are, so that and what extra supports we should be looking at providing for right out of the gate in August, whether it's social emotional or reading or math, at our core levels. And then I guess I would say, at the high school levels too, if some math through some of the loss of time, even just last spring. So I guess I don't know where that's coming, when we can get that and when that would come to us, but I would like to know if you can do that, or you and Dr. Campbell and the cabinet, or.
Yes. So I just read an excellent report that was done earlier this winter and the late fall, I think, comparing student progress this fall to the fall before to look at those gaps. And that's part of the reason for this program that is so much more expansive, 4 or 5 times as big as last summer's summer school program. But it also is interesting that there is not, I assume that report was presented to the board. Yes, and there is not as much gap as you would expect, but I would expect us to continue to follow up on that and looking. A lot of testing is going on now at this time of year, so we'll continue to look at that information and provide it to the board.
Great. Yeah. I would just like to know what, if we need to provide resources, that is done sooner rather than later.
Yeah. I think what we have for this summer is I think that's pretty set. But I think looking into the fall, we should be thinking about whether there will be a need for additional support for students, for sure.
So just confirming that there is no cost for the program for those 660 kids, right? The
660 kids. No, it's
no
paid
cost
for,
there, paid
no
for
cost.
by Title I and
And the
ESERs.
ESER, yes.
Yep. So the additional summer learning experiences, the fine arts program, the Project Lead the Way, is there cost associated with that to the families? And just same kind of question, the York Summer School program, is the cost similar to what it has been in the past, since will be 2 summers now,
Yes.
2 years since families have had to sign up for those programs? Could we give an idea of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the fine arts program, PLTW and York does all have a cost associated with it. The fine arts program is incredibly flexible and advertises as well that if a family is taking a vacation, they can attend when they can. So I think that may have contributed to the really high numbers. The course costs are listed when going through registration. The PLTW is going to cost $170, which is what we charged in the past to help provide the program. It is heavy on materials for some of those courses in computer science as well as in engineering. And then with the York Fine Arts programming, the courses and the cost will range anywhere from roughly $100 to as high as $250 based on the course and the lab fees that may be associated with that course itself.
And as a reminder, the York programs, you have those 2 sessions, correct, families? You have 2 opportunities to enroll in summer school, the first one and the second one.
Correct.
Important to know. Is that the same for the fine arts and the Project Lead the Way options, or is there just one program for those?
There is one registration deadline for the fine arts and the PLTW programming. With the York summer school, we have 2 different deadlines. As Ms. Troutman helped us point out, thank you for that. The first session is June 14th. The second is July 6th is the start date. Parents are encouraged to register up into those dates. And if anyone registers after those dates, after the date of June 11th, they can email yorksummer@elmhurst205.org, and we will make sure they get into those courses if space is still available.
And that is, I assume this is on our website.
Yes, the York Summer School website is completely built out and has all this information. So if a parent is interested or a student, they can go to the York website, search Summer School, and it will pop up. The registration steps are all listed, and course offering booklets as well as the deadlines themselves within that site.
Any other questions?
I just have one, if you don't mind, and I'll pull my rookie card because I'm new and I can. Just a little question about families who might be facing some financial hardship and what we might have planned for support, if we have a plan for potential support or options for them in the summer programming.
We have provided support in the past for qualifying parents, and that is not anything we will be removing, to my understanding, this year either. So thank you for flagging that.
Nikki, I just have one more follow-up. Did you give us a number of, was it about 600?
It's about 660 students.
Okay, thanks. And then and you just keep inviting till you fill it. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Just
That
wanted to
includes
clarify.
dual language as well.
Sorry, what?
That includes dual language as well.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
Well, and I would just encourage, and I know you mentioned it, but let's be really aggressive with making sure we're getting in touch with these families, because I think a lot of communication is sometimes lost with, a good portion of our community. So I don't want a non-response to just, let's try hard, like really, because they are the neediest of our students. And I know you guys do as well. I know we all want them to get the help they need, so.
Yeah, I have to say Calissa Smith is responsible for the K-5 program. She's the assistant principal at Lincoln. And then Shalene DeLockery is the principal at Emerson, and she will be the middle school director. And they're both hard at work making sure we fill every single one of these spots.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. All right, item B, update COVID metrics and factors.
So Dr. Rubenstein is here to provide any or answer any questions or provide additional information. This memo always comes to you late because we get metrics late on Friday afternoon, and then the memo is written over the weekend. And but I think a new section on the front is helpful, and that things that have happened since early April, including the fact that all students have returned to school on a full-time basis. 97% of our staff members are fully vaccinated through our partnership with Edward Elmhurst Health, Jewel Osco, and Metro Infectious Disease Specialists. And all people over the ages of 16 became eligible for vaccines on April 12th. And we've sent information to our families about vaccines, and Dr. Rubenstein has been working to connect students and families with information about clinics that are available. One of the interesting things that we're finding is a lot of students 16 and 17 years old and 18 have already gotten vaccinated. And so, but we're still doing this and still looking at the possibility of having a clinic at York or Churchville or both for students. I had a conversation with a local pediatrician this week who told me that her practice is expecting momentarily, she thought this week, vaccinations for children 12 to 15. So that I was very encouraged by that. That's much earlier than we originally thought. And again, we'll just continue to make information available, try to provide opportunities as is happening nationally, statewide, nationally. The number of people showing up to clinics is going down, but now with these new age groups opening up, I think demand will go up, and we're again hoping that everybody who wants to participate in that program will have the opportunity soon. There's an example here. Lake Park High School offered 200 spots for us, but we had a hard time finding 200 students. We targeted students with medical that are at medical risk, and then moved on to other students and opened it up, and we did not fill every spot. It was a very quick turnaround. It was this Monday.
As all vaccine clinics are. We are so thankful for all of our partnerships with Jewel Osco, but and for Edward Elmhurst and everybody else who we get to work with, but people come to us and say, on a Tuesday, we will have vaccines for you on Friday, fill 1,200 slots. Yeah. And so it is very much a scramble to get all of that together for people. And so that is why there are sometimes a couple of emails and that sort of thing to our district community.
So this past Monday, not this week, but last week, I participated in a phone call with the DuPage County superintendents and 2 representatives from the health department. And I just found out today there's another call this coming Monday, May 3rd, that I will certainly participate in. That the superintendents, I was very impressed with the DuPage superintendents and their aggressiveness at asking the same questions that we're asking, that our parents are asking, that about guidelines in particular for social distancing as it relates to quarantine decisions. masking questions, all kinds of questions that came up. And one of the superintendents that I connected with later shared with me a document he had written that I shared with the entire cabinet that I think captured it perfectly, but these regulations are not always logical, and that it's creating a rift between the school and our parents right now because they're so frustrated about the quarantines in particular. And so I want to say again that we're working very hard and aggressively to talk about this with the county health department and any other agency that can have an impact on the guidelines. So again, I'm participating in another call on May 3rd, and we will continue to do that. I also am going to restart our advisory panel with several local doctors that because I think it really will take a partnership with us. That we're not medical doctors, and so our anecdotal information or our frustrations don't necessarily have an impact. But perhaps if we're partnered with local physicians, with our parents, with other school districts, that we can have more impact. So Kevin, Dr. Rubenstein, I don't know if you want to talk about any other aspects, but I did want to mention those things and highlight, that we're working hard on the issues that we are frustrated about, being told it's okay to have kids 3 feet apart, but then if there's an issue of a positive test that you have to, if you're within 6 feet, you have to be quarantined. The length of quarantine doesn't always make sense. I think that is changing. I think that is something that's going to change, at least not the 14 days, but we're still working on those things. So.
Yep. And to Dr. Yonke's point about advocacy, so she was on that call. She followed up with those fellow superintendents who continue to work with DuPage County Department of Public Health. All of us through our various professional organizations are working with attempting to advocate with the Illinois Department of Public Health, our various local health departments, and then even through our national organizations like Dr. Yonke isn't, I don't think, a member of AASA, the School Superintendents Association anymore.
I am, yes.
But I know that they have had a hand in advocating and working with the CDC.
Yeah.
One of my national professional organizations has been working, they have a partnership call every other Monday where they ask these 2 specific questions about the physical distancing, the 3 feet and the 6 feet, and the length of quarantine, and sort of took those back to the partnership group. So I don't want the members of the public to think that this is a stagnant issue that nobody is, nobody in the cabinet or nobody in the district is like sort of sitting on or working on, because it is something that we are working on an everyday basis. There are some things that Linda, Dr. Yonke and I have sort of talked about as sort of some absolutes, and one of them is just sort of simple and easy to understand, which is that people who are positive for COVID can't be at school or at work, and that's really easy to understand, and so they would have to isolate for a certain period of time. The other ones are the ones that are a little bit more difficult and challenging for people to understand, but they are rules nonetheless, and we're following them to the best of our ability. So the first one is regarding the face coverings, and so that is a rule handed to us by the State Department of Public Health. Though just today, they lifted some of the restrictions regarding outdoor face coverings, and so that will help
That's
with
for
things
people
like
that are vaccinated. Yeah.
Yep, exactly, for vaccinated people, and so that will help at things like eventually at outdoor events and those sorts of things. And then 2 things that continue to just cause us the most challenges that we continue to work on are the definitions of close contacts especially when we are bringing kids always within 3 feet, but the definition of a close contact continues to be 6 feet, and then the rules regarding quarantines. And so those are the 4 absolutes that we have been talking about, and we don't love all of them, but they are absolutes right now, and so those are the ones that are handed to us, not by you, the board, and not directed by me as a student services person or by Dr. Yonke. They're handed to us by other entities, and so that's what we're working on. And if people want any of those to change, then it is something that they need to advocate with other entities and other public bodies with. So that's the first thing that I would say. The second thing is just to follow up on a previous board meeting, is that we are going to start looking at, I think, in a collaborative way with all of our stakeholders. Dr. Yonke mentioned the medical panel reconvening with all of our stakeholders, what the metrics could look like, and what a new draft of those metrics could look like, probably not for this year, but for the summer and into the fall. We don't want to make any more changes for this year. With 5 weeks left of school, it would seem to be more confusing to make more changes at this point. And so we would want to have the input of the medical panel and advising people about where to go from here. And then there is just this thought about needing to track some data about the number of students who are quarantined and who are actually coming back COVID positive. And a little bit of a challenge with that. I agree that it's a good idea. One of the challenges with that is that we would have to then ask each of those students who are quarantined to actually go and get a test when they're coming back. And some of our students are actually quarantining and doing it for the 14 days and not testing. And so they're just completing the quarantine. So it would be sort of an incomplete data set. So certainly we can track what we have, but it would be sort of an incomplete data set, so to speak. So the rest of the metrics are there. They are tracked week to week, actually day to day for you. And so all of them are there and pretty self-explanatory. And Dr. Yonke or myself are happy to answer any questions.
Thanks. I have to go in 8 minutes, so I appreciate the opportunity. Dr. Yonke, you talked about a riff, with our parents who believe that some of these rules that are set make no sense, and I want to concur with that and voice that I think that rift is growing. I think people's patience is becoming less and less. And I'm encouraged that you're talking about forming a new medical panel, perhaps with some different physicians on it than in the past. I think that is a great idea. I would encourage that panel to review our current procedures, as well as encourage us, as these rules get changed, to immediately implement those changes in the rules that are dictated by the various public health agencies. I think our parents would respond extremely favorably if we change the rules for our students as those rules changed for us.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think, otherwise it just doesn't make sense. Plus, I'd also encourage you to use that new medical panel. You talk about superintendents talking to the health department. I think superintendents can ask how and when, but physicians can ask why and why not. And, introduce, tier 1 current medical research on this disease to the health department, and actually go toe-to-toe with them and put some pressure on them to make some rules for kids, because I think they're too focused on adults. Make rules for kids that make sense for kids. And I think that's all the encouragement I have to offer.
Okay.
Thank you.
I also forgot to mention with this, or we really could have included it in the memo, that we are about ready to send out a letter to our family, to every family, just unequivocally stating that next year will be all day, every day, for all students in all schools, and that we will offer a program, a remote program for students where it's medically necessary, but we're expecting to have a full range of extracurricular activities, our entire academic program at all schools at all levels. I thought people would assume that, but I'm hearing from the principals that maybe not, that people are, and I think it'll be useful. We shared this letter that we constructed, the cabinet reviewed it, and we shared it with the principals as well, because they're the ones that kind of brought this to my attention, and I think that is a good thing to send out. And we're going to begin to assess. We're thinking that the number of students that will want to be remote will be very small, that it's medically necessary to be remote, but we want to be flexible with them and offer, we absolutely, of course, will offer a program, but it depends on how many students are in that as to exactly what that will be. We're exploring both whether it would be our teachers or a program that we would use. So I just wanted to let you know too that is going out to parents this week.
That's great, and that's a very good point that you bring up. We need to let our parents know unequivocally that we are open for business as normal in the fall.
And maybe we could include, to Jim's point of that if anything changes, which we hope some of these things like quarantine or things change, there'll immediately be an adjustment. So, part of, because that's part of the frustration. I think, what we're hearing is people want to know, well, what is it going to look like in the fall? Well, will there be masks? Well, that's not our decision, right? So just kind of, we will adjust immediately.
Right, absolutely. And if 12 to 18-year-olds can get vaccinated, or at least a critical group get vaccinated, that will change things a lot. We hope that just like our teachers and our staff, we're seeing very few cases now. And we assume that will be the case when students become vaccinated as well. So.
Right, as well as making the health department realize that the transmission among younger kids than 12 is so very, very low that, I mean,
I would say serious illness is low. I'm not sure about the transmission because so many kids are asymptomatic, and whether the transmission, I hear a lot of families where the parent gets sick, the child gets sick, but the child has no symptoms, and so we want to be careful about that. But certainly we know that young children that get it are at very low risk, and so we would like to see the guidance take that into account. So.
Did you have anything else? Because I know you're. Chris?
Yeah, I think just a couple of things that you and Kevin had outlined, starting with the absolutes, right? So I want to highlight those because I think it's important to draw the distinction. So these are things where the board does not have discretion, and these are rules that we must follow. And that's if you have COVID, you can't attend our school until you've recovered. Second, the mask mandate, which is from the state health department. And then third and fourth are, definition of close contacts and then related quarantine procedures. These are things that we must follow. I think it's important that the community understands that we hear the frustrations.
Yes.
Several board members, myself included, have had children that have been caught up in those same exact situations. So we both understand and also empathize with the situation. And we are advocating as a board with these agencies. Our superintendent is advocating, our cabinet members and others in the district are advocating, and I'd like to encourage the community to assist us in that advocacy as well. And that's, the county health department and other agencies that have jurisdiction over those issues that I just outlined. It's important for them to hear from you as well. And I think that there's work to do to make these quarantine procedures in particular more child-friendly, more student-friendly, and to truly support the full reopening of our schools. So hopefully we can make progress on that. I did want to ask one related question. With regards to the absolutes when eating, if there was anything that would fall into that category when our students are eating lunch.
So obviously you can take off your mask while you're eating, and crazy enough, while you're swimming. That was a joke. Come on, that was good. While you're eating and still while you're eating, you have to be 6 feet apart. That is one of the
Facing the
most
same direction.
strict guidelines in
Okay.
the state board.
All right, so I'll add that to the list then, 6 feet apart when eating. So I think it'd be helpful to have maybe a slide or part of a public memo at the next board meeting, a list of those items. And I'll let you all figure out how to communicate it from there, but I just wanted to draw that distinction.
Right.
Second, I wanted to request that we do start tracking data about how many quarantines turn into cases, even understanding that it might be flawed data. I'd rather have something than nothing. And my understanding is that the county health department is not tracking this information.
Correct. And this was one of the questions I got in the last session, but asking about the percent of students who are quarantined but never get sick, or the other way, the percent of students who end up with a positive test. And her eventual response was about 10%, but to the superintendent's anecdotally, that seems high. And Dr. Rubenstein heard a range of 2 to 12%. And so I'm sure there are outbreaks where there is a higher, sometimes you do get a group of kids where that outbreak is higher, but it has been, for us, it has been low. But that's anecdotal. We haven't, and as Dr. Rubenstein pointed out, today we were talking about this and I realized, he pointed out to me that to really get an accurate number, you would have to test every student that, not just the screener, the actual test of every student who was quarantined, because so many kids are asymptomatic. You don't know, there may be some kids that you're sending back that did have COVID, but as you say, we can start to put that data together and see what we have, but know that we'll have to see what percent of students actually. Now students are motivated to get a test so they can come back sooner from the quarantine. But as Dr. Rubenstein pointed out, not every student does that.
Right. And I think it would be okay, at least in my view, if we asked voluntarily if they would be willing to take a test to help us build our data set. But the bottom line is that these rules are not student friendly.
No.
And I want to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to assist with that and having data behind it. I mean, it's a bit disappointing that the data is not being collected at the county level if we're putting, policies in place that are impacting these kids. So I want to make sure we're not part of the problem. Yeah.
Okay.
And then last thing, I just wanted to ask that we start thinking about reopening our facilities to third parties. Potentially for discussion at an upcoming board meeting, but there are organizations, sports organizations and others that use our facilities in the summer and throughout the year. That's been sort of indefinitely shut, and we made that decision at the beginning of the pandemic. Time to reevaluate. And at the end of the day, a lot of those people are our students or children in the community, and I think it's time to reevaluate what we can do to restart that. So, thank you.
I just had a couple of things. Chris, thank you for stressing the fact that while we have to follow these guidelines right now for quarantines, we truly understand the frustration they cause and the impact that they have on kids. And I think that it's disappointing to me that the data is not being collected, because I think,
certain entities are looking at numbers and they're not thinking about the impact to each child that these quarantines are having. And like our parent said, I know I've heard from kids that are almost too anxious to go places because they're afraid they're going to be exposed and then affect their peers and or miss out on activities or make their friends miss out on activities. So it's just like this domino effect that is causing everyone so much stress.
Yeah.
So thank you for everything that you're doing to advocate and everyone here as well. And can we give some guidance to our parents as what you would recommend that they do to advocate? Are there email addresses that can be made available, or that people that you would recommend they reach out to directly that would be most helpful for that?
Yeah, we can put our heads together about that.
Okay. That would be great. And then for vaccines and the efforts that we've made at the district here, you guys have made to get everyone vaccinated is fantastic. Thank you. So for students that are fully vaccinated, what things for them change? For quarantines, they don't have to
be quarantined.
They would not have to quarantine.
Right. So for eating, does that change anything for that for us?
Not according
yet.
to the,
Not yet.
so, not quite yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I assume that's something that we're looking at as well.
I would imagine, so you have to remember that the guidelines are coming fast and furious, and so like those guidelines came out on March 9th, which was not even at a time when 16-year-olds, except for a very small group of them, could get vaccinated. So ISB didn't include very much guidance about 16-year-olds who were vaccinated, you know, and their eating habits. So I would imagine that over the summer, there's going to be a whole lot more because the 12 to 15-year-old group is going to be able to get vaccinated. And then there will be just a lot more about eating closer together and what that should look like and who's vaccinated and who's not. So, yes.
Great. And through our communications, just to update the community on these things as they come through, because I know they are constantly changing, would be super helpful. So thank you for everything you're doing. Appreciate it.
Yeah, can I just add a special thank you? I know the phone call home is hard to make on a couple of sides here, from the parents who are receiving the phone call and what the impact is on their student and children and household, really, and to also the people, the nurses, the principals and assistant principals who are making these calls and who are really in a difficult situation to deliver at times a very hard message. So thank you for your work and your contribution and just hanging in there. And as a community, you know, hopefully with some modifications of recommendations, we'll get to a better place. But just remember that we need to serve also a little grace and support to everyone who's involved. And so thank you to your teams for hanging in there in a really tough situation.
So, so I have two things. And I just lost my train of thought on the first one, so I'll just go to the second one, and I'm sure it'll pop back up. Listen, come on. As the senior board member sitting at this table, I have allowed some grace due to age. Linda, thank you very much for telling our parents outright that we are open for business come the fall, August. Oh my gosh, August.
Yeah.
I know that seems like it should have been an assumption. It was on our part, but it's very glad to hear. I know that we had anticipated a report from the district in May to talk to our parents about that. That was kind of the timeline that we had set up earlier, but it's great to hear that. When we talk about the remote options, and I know I mentioned this to you before, and hopefully the number of quarantines because of close contact once 12 to 16-year-olds are vaccinated, 12-year-olds will diminish.
Right.
But I do have that concern about those kids, healthy kids that will be quarantined once schools open and how we're teaching them. By no fault of their own, there's going to be quarantines. And so I'm sure much smarter people like you guys will figure it out. I'm sure other districts are figuring out, but the option for me is not you're going to get asynchronous work for 2 weeks and I'll see you when you come back from quarantine, right? Like there's got to be better options out there. So I hope that's in the forefront of your thinking, and I'm sure it is. Yeah, I got Dan.
So just as a quick response to that,
Thank
the letter that's going home talks about, full day, every day, all students, every school, and the remote learning for medically fragile students or students with medical necessity. We do not address quarantine in that but we're planning for it because we also think we haven't seen the effect of this vaccine surge that we're getting, and especially to more of our students, many more of our students, almost half of them will be able to be vaccinated. So, so we are definitely, that's in our sights. We know that it can't just be 10, 14 days of asynchronous learning.
Because I think we all recognize the burden on our teachers that have had to do both this year. Teach the kids at home and teach the kids in the class. Right. And that's not a burden we should impose on them again. Right. Like it was an emergency situation. Right. Now we have the luxury of planning. Right. So I certainly hope that there is.
But it's also difficult to say, okay, your kid's out for 2 weeks, you go to a teacher you've never met before.
Right, and that's why when people say, oh, let's use a program like Illinois Virtual School, I'm like, well, you can't just pop these kids in and out of Illinois Virtual School. So that's what I mean. It's definitely a challenge, I'm sure, but I just hope that is something
it's definitely top in our planning.
Yeah, and I got nothing on the first thing, so you're off the hook.
You'll think of it tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yep.
I wanted to bring this up anyway, but we had someone ask if we were advocating, and I think that I spend a lot of time calling the Illinois Department of Health, the governor's office, advocating, and I also talk to other elected officials in our positions in other districts regularly each week to see how we can advocate for our kids. But what I wanted to know is anyone opposed to us having an elected officials breakfast? Like, I know that a lot of districts do this, and I think that what I have realized is while I have some connections with some of our elected officials through, just meeting them at different times, I think we need to bring them in. I think there are actually a lot of things happening in Springfield that are going to have a lot of impact on us. And I think, the last year has shown that it's important that they understand what we're going through and that we also build those relationships with them and they can also engage with our community a little bit. So if that's all right, then we can, maybe work on that and, ideally try to make that happen this spring. I don't know if that's possible, but I think that isn't something that we've done before, but I think that it's important. And I think especially because we really, even though we haven't always gotten where we wanted to go, we have been leading in a lot of ways. And I think that, not everybody can do that. So I think, so if that's
great idea. Yeah.
All right, then, okay. So we'll follow up later about that, but I just wanted to, with that. All right, so we can move on to FOIA, Freedom of Information. That's you.
That's me, and I was prepared, but I am anymore. Here it is. All right. So I take it that I read the date and what it is in the resolution. Okay. So our FOIAs for the past month, March 12th, a FOIA for District 205 back to school was granted. March 15th, percentage of vaccinated staff, granted. March 16th, in-person and saliva test, granted. March 17th, Bryan Middle School bid results, granted. March 22nd, return to school panel, granted. March 26th, board doc materials, granted. March 26th, York curriculum information, granted. March 26th, resignation document, granted. March 26th, York bid results, granted. March 26th, immunization vaccination state reports, granted. April 15th, superintendent contract, granted. April 21st, bus transportation information, granted. April 21st, student directory information denied. April 22nd, new construction, renovation, and or maintenance work granted. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. And we have tweets, plural, of the week.
Yes. Good evening to our board and to our community. As was said, we are shifting a little bit in our name. This is where we were. Tweet of the week. And RJ, if you go on to the next, we are now tweets of the week. It is our chance to really exemplify the great things that are going on in our community, in our school community, through the eyes of social media. And just as a coin or a moniker, we have chosen tweets, but we certainly know that we have several different social media channels, and we also have our hashtag that we group a lot of things by, and that's hashtag Ignite D205. We have 3 for you this evening to meet our demand for great news. The first one is going out to York High School, so shout out to them tonight. And we're recognizing York High School, and their Twitter handle is @YorkD205 for its recent social media post about York freshmen and 2021 DuPage County AXO Olympian Jonathan Zala. And if you look at the tweet, it says, "Congratulations to York freshman Jonathan Zala for presenting his research paper and, get this, reducing latency in in-service robots." That's pretty awesome. And the Twitter handle for AXO DuPage County is @DuPage County AXO. Of course, there is our handle, Elmhurst D205, and then @Shahe Bags, which is Principal Bagdasarian at York High School. For those who are wondering what DuPage County AXO is, it is an organization that has its roots in the NAACP, so a youth portion of the NAACP chapter, that devotes itself to excellency in young African Americans or Black students or those individuals of color. So awesome accomplishment, great work for Jonathan, and great work for York capturing that. And moving on to our next tweet. This is a little more colorful in the way of artistic expression, recognizing Mrs. Hummel. And Mrs. Hummel's handle is @Mrs. Hummel Art. She is an art teacher at Edison. And this is recognizing her recent social media post displaying her students' Cubist portraits. Now, I have said this many, many times. When I was that age, I could not do anything like this at all. But they are doing some wonderful work at, I believe it's the 5th grade level. So these are 5th grade Cubist portraits. And Mrs. Hummel says they turned out great. And it was fun to see them explore new materials and techniques. So shout out to @Edison D205, and again, hashtag Ignite D205. And for the final tweets of the week, we're recognizing Lincoln Elementary. And for many of you, everyone does realize, or most people realize, that this is the last look at the current Lincoln. And @Lincoln D205 captured this post as they're preparing for transition of Hawthorne principal Tim Reardon, who came over to visit the 3rd graders. And if you're thinking about their transition activities, these current 3rd graders will spend their 4th grade year next year at Hawthorne. So a chance for their principal to come by, to see them, to connect with them, knowing that while their school is under construction, they're going to be in great hands. So it says, "Look who came out to visit next year's 4th grade students." It goes on to list the handles for Lincoln D205, hashtag Mr. Reardon rocks, and he does, @Hawthorne D205, @Elmhurst D205, hashtag, they love hashtags, hashtag 100 days of happy Lincoln, and always hashtag Ignite D205. So for all of those who would like to follow all the hashtags, all of the handles, where you need to go is to like, share, and follow Elmhurst D205 on all your favorite social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We are there and delivering great news every day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, board communications, anything? Oh.
Sorry. I have one thing. No, I just, I'm sorry to end it back on a fiscal item, but I just wanted to draw a connection between the discussion earlier on debt financing and what that means for the original tax impacts of the referendum projects. If folks listening recall, the original projections were around $150 increase in taxes for a $500,000 home, and that's over a longer period of time, an average. As a result of putting in debt financing in a much lower interest rate environment, that the new estimate is, I believe, in the 30s or below. So it's been a very significant reduction in what was voted upon at the time, and I think it's just every time we get a chance to highlight that, I think we should, so the burden on the taxpayer is lower and the projects are, proceeding on time and on budget as well. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, then we have 3 upcoming meetings. May 11th, 2021, regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting at 7 o'clock here in District 205 Center. May 25th, 2021, regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting at 7 o'clock here in District 205 Center. And June 15th, 2021, regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting here at 7 o'clock. And that will be potentially the last one that you will be
Yes,
here.
it will, for sure.
And then we will begin with Dr. Kimball.
Right.
So, okay.
Yeah.
She's, but we love having you here. It's just kind of, it's already going fast. So, okay. If there's nothing else, then we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Look at this. I wrote this at 5 o'clock, 8:50.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess. Yeah.